There's a lot of change in the ATM industry right now. People use still traditional infrastructure, say they use PCs and ATMs, and that's all outdated. So I've been looking at a solution where we move to tablets so we can actually build new applications on ATMs using apps. So I've been reviewing it for a while, and the feedback I had from the industry is very positive. And banks en masse believe there's a big reduction in cost, and it's easier to do new things on ATMs. So it's a bit complex thing because we're trying to move an ecosystem. And what I'm doing right now is sort of creating awareness of this new thinking and asking banks to participate. As a next step, there will be sort of an industry request for information where banks collectively ask the vendors to come up with solutions. One of the big problems is standardization, and that needs to be addressed. I believe there's a lot of new good things coming our way. So, for example, Apple Pay will launch in Russia. It's been announced, and I believe that will kickstart people using mobile phones. That means things like biometry will become more and easy, because in the end, if you sort of use your phone to access an ATM, I think, well, you can actually use a thumbprint of the device itself. If I've seen, for example, in Poland, where the banks launched a mobile payment scheme, they said, well, it can compete with cards. Well, half of the usage is actually on ATMs. And that offers, I think, in my opinion, a good way, once those things are coming and people think, well, it's about payments, well, it's also about self-service. I believe that sort of new thinking will innovate the ATM industry and allow us to use higher security, as you say, as biometrics. It's a question I probably can talk about for 2 hours. But if I especially zoom into the ATM industry, it's about collective thinking. So we have a lot of thought. I think there may be hardware vendors who say, well, actually, I only want to sell my own software solutions. I believe the big thing, if we want to do a lot of new things, that standardization is the key. And that means a lot of cooperation between the suppliers on the one hand and the banks on the other hand. One of the big differences is sort of the uses of ATMs. So if you look at Western Europe, it was talked about at this conference as well. I deal with clients in Norway and Sweden, and that's where cash usage is actually reducing. I believe sort of more than 90% of what people pay in shops is done on cards. So 90% plus of the turnover is card-based. Compared to Russia, I believe that's someone said that sort of 20% of the payments in Russia are cards. So that's a long way to go. So that means, and I've seen good solutions, that means you got a lot of cash going through the system, and you need a lot of good solutions to make that effective. It also means, I think, on the ATM side, there's lots of banks that say in Europe, actually, we want to sort of get out, we want perhaps a national solution. I believe it's now critical for Russia for banks to have ATM, because that's where a bank, it's a transaction point basically. So that means different view, different mindsets. An ATM is an asset, whereas in Europe it's a cost, and that's when people start cutting down on. I don't believe it's a battle. I think some organizations say, I think we can kill cash and so on and so forth. We heard ambitious talk about from the card payment scheme, they want to kill cash and so on and so forth. Well, that's interesting, but the consumer wants to have both. And I think in time they may say, well, actually, yeah, we're going to use the card and the mobile more. But in the end, I believe it's going to take a long while before anyone can say that battle has been decided. I mean, the cashless society is going to be years and years away. It's my first time, and I hope I've seen a lot of new things here, learned a lot about the Russian market, and I hope my presentation was good enough to be invited back for next year. For me, today was an introduction. Today and yesterday was an introduction to see more about Russia, and I believe I exceeded in that objective. I find it good and encouraging that you have a lot of people in the audience. I mean, I've been at ATM and cash conferences where basically I think there's not a big audience as there is here.